like you broke in under TNT, right? Under Greg.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So
what's it like
what a
training
blast.
under Greg Bounds?
Man, it's awesome. Like, it's one of those things where I'm kind of, so like, for in our situation, we pretty much like, well, actually, to tell a bit about my story, essentially, I used to train with Greg back when I was like, so I used to watch shows when I was like 12. Like, so I used to train with Greg, started training with Greg about 13 years old, right? My dad would actually write me a permission slip to the school to go and do that for school sport instead of doing regular school sport. So I would go train with.
That's cool as fuck.
Yeah, so I would go train with Greg in this boxing ring. This is why, like, like I look up to him so much, because I've, as a young kid, I was always watching his matches. I was like, man, really, like, that was just also like impressive. It blew me away. So, he took me up. So for school sport, I would do that with him for a little bit. And then eventually, like, obviously the travel got a bit too far and other things got in the way. But I essentially, with Greg, I came back training with him in late 2020, but that was pretty much because of the pandemic. Like, I always wanted to wrestle, and then I was like, no, I got to go do real stuff. I got to go make money. And then, like, when the pandemic came around, I'm like, oh, maybe maybe I need to start doing the things I want to do. Like, it was kind of like a whole reset for me. So I started with him in 2020, like late 2020, and debuted early 2021. So it was a quick turnaround, very quick turnaround. But it was with Greg. He sort of, like, I was there, 4 days a week, 4 days a week training out of a little place in Chullora. So just really sort of like speed course for me, like, just got me up to basics. And surprisingly, even since from when I was 13, I still like didn't forget how to bump. So, I mean, the first one was a bit shaky or whatnot, but then got into it over time. So for me, like, I can't like stress enough how, important of an influence Greg's been to like my career. Like, and I'm glad to consider him a good friend. Yeah.
That's the first time on this podcast that anyone's really put him over like that, bro. I'm going to be honest. It's, I like, bro, I don't have any beef with anybody in Australian wrestling, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But like, like, no one really says anything negative about him, but it's like no one ever says anything to, you know what I mean? Like, he's just one of those guys people go, yeah, it's TNT. You know what I mean? It's Greg. You know what I mean? Like, no one really...
He's got that cult of personality too, like the Birdman has in some sort of senses. Like, I mean, you look around the sort of like country, a lot of people know Greg Bounds. A lot of people, some people might want to say negative stuff about him. Some people want to say positive stuff about him. But to me, like, like I've always seen him. Like, that's why I tried to give you a bit of the context of the backstory. Like, from 13, training me, taking me in, all that stuff, under his wing. Like, it's just only positive things to say about him in that regard. That's my experience with him,
Yeah, sure, man. No, we respect that.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have different experiences with people. You know what I mean? Like, most people I've spoken to would say that Robbie Zuko is a complete cunt. And, I 100%
me too. Yeah,
agree.
me too.
Yeah, like, he's...
Whatever makes you feel better.
Hey, man, we bring him here for the grandmother demographic, brother. But
that's it.
Like, bro, like Robbie, on that, like, did you ever cross paths with like TNT over your career? Like, did you guys ever wrestle each other? Did you guys ever face?
Once.
Really? Where at?
Yeah,
like, what was the deal?
It was Super Show. So I think Greg was in 10 years. I think I was in 4 or 5 years in the business or something like that. Yeah. It was Super Show at Newcastle. So we wrestled each other. It went well. You know what I mean? We worked pretty well together when we had the match. The match went really, really smooth. It was good. It was fun.
Did you get the run through? Did you learn the language? He's got like an interesting language when he puts together matches. It's
well, he wanted to do certain things that he wanted to do, which is fair enough. And then, of course, at the time, I just did whatever I wanted to do as well. But I didn't do a hell of a lot. Once I came back from the States, I wasn't spot orientated. A few spots here and there, and then just work through the match. But we had some chemistry out there, which was good. Yeah, it's a Super Show. What was it? 4 when they did like Newcastle. So it was Yeah.
Would you work him again?
He was always nice to me anyway.
Would you work him again?
Yeah, I'd work him again for sure.
He'll put together matches and he'll know like what people are capable of. So a lot of times people in AWF, like, you know, like in some situations, say you got him working with like a newer person, like you'll sort of see him in a bit of like a cruise control mode. But then when you the charity show AWS, like I think I told you to check it out the other day, Piers. The Ricky South versus TNT match. That was pretty something special when you think about like sort of obviously like the age gap and everything else, and sort of like the sort of the matchup of sort of like the different generations and the way it sort of worked together. It was good to see him in fifth gear, you know, going full detonation time, you know.
Hey man, you know what, bro? Like, in all fairness, bro, like any interaction I've had with Greg has always been kind of like he's always been positive. He's always been nice. You know what I mean? Like he's never been disrespectful. And like I think I even said this before, is like as far as like when you see like a lot of drama starting to pop off online and shit like that, it's like it's never really involving him. He kind of just knows the lane that he's in and stays in that lane, bro. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't really fuck with anybody. You know what I mean? He's got his crew of people that he uses on his shows, and that's just what he, you know what I mean? Like he just doesn't fuck with anyone, bro. You know what I mean? Like I kind of respect that as well, bro, because he just kind of does his thing, keeps to himself. You know what I mean?
There's a few like that around. Like you look at someone like a Vulcan, right? I mean, you don't see. I mean, obviously you see a bit of like obviously Wrestle Strong and Vulcan, sort of a bit of a crossover there now. But like in terms of Sydney, like Vulcan was like always staying in his own lane for the most part, like in a lot of ways too. But I mean, I think like back to Greg, I think one of the biggest reflections of him is like biggest reflection of a good promoter is a good locker room. And like I can't say I've had many places where like the locker room isn't as in check as it is in AWF, because like there's people that just they respect someone who's in charge, and sometimes I'm not naming names, but like sometimes you get like promotions where it's sort of like the chiefs are like the prisoners are running, the inmates are running the asylum, you know, that kind of old thing. And I'm not, you know, like in a lot of cases that happens. In a lot of cases, maybe it's better, maybe it works better, but like I've never noticed that in AWF, and I think it's a credit to why, you know, sort of like the locker room vibe there.
Yeah, it's important. It's always important to have that vibe going. You know what I mean? You